So for the last 15, 20 minutes or so, I did want to touch on, and this is kind of coming out of what you were talking about with Chomsky and everything, his harm reduction strategy of his voting strategy. And I just want to say that as a major opponent of that kind of thinking, I did recently read, and I've talked about this the last couple podcasts, but I did read Requiem for the American Dream that he wrote, and I was expecting a big chapter on harm reduction, lesser of two evils voting. And in context, I can kind of appreciate where he's coming from a lot better. And this is why it's obviously important to engage with things that you might not necessarily agree with, just to kind of try to get a better understanding. So,
absolutely.
So I think in context, what I got from that, because it was such a tiny little section, he's talking about all of these problems that have led up to Trump and the current, I think this book came out in 2017 or something like that, 2016. Yeah. So he had just seen the beginnings of Trump's rise to power and, the initial signs of fascism that, he was displaying. So he didn't even have the full brunt of that we understand now. But even then, he had just a small section talking about, he said that the election should take 10 minutes of your time. You say, which of these candidates is worse, go to the ballot box, write down that person's name, submit it, and then go the fuck home, and that's it. That should be all the time that it takes to do and to worry about an election. And I had read that before, and I was like, okay, so he's saying it's really easy, and it sounded really condescending to me. But in context, what I got from that, and I think you might agree with me, is he's saying that much like most anarchists talk about, like Emma Goldman, these people say that electoral politics are nearly ineffective. They are mostly performative. It is the illusion of choice, that participating in it is not the end-all be-all for facing for going up against fascism. And that, and Chomsky said, 10 minutes, that should be all the time that it takes to think about this. Next, you go out and you start, organizing, get that leftist praxis into action.
I think that's right. Now, I think it's wrong to think of that as condescending, because what he's saying is something like this. Think about the centrist dorks who sit there and watch Rachel Maddow all night and and they think all they need to do in order to be a political person is to watch enough Rachel Maddow and go vote in national electoral politics elections. And that's it. Game over. You're done. Then you go home and there's no more to doing politics. There's no more to your political life. Well, I want to read you something from Angela Davis, who has and if anybody has leftist credentials, Angela Davis has the fucking credentials. Okay, so she went on Democracy Now! And spoke to Amy Goodman, and she said this: "Neither party represents the future that we need in this country. Both parties remain connected to corporate capitalism. We're going to have to translate some of the passion that has characterized these demonstrations into work within the electoral arena, recognizing that the electoral arena is not the best place for the expression of radical politics." Okay, and so she's just right in line with Chomsky on this. And I want to make this point: when you do harm reduction type voting, when you do strategic voting, it does not mean that you support the candidate that you are voting, quote, for. Okay, you're voting against the shit. Right. You're voting against the worst outcome. Okay, and so here's what she says. Amy Goodman says, well, in 2016, you said that you wouldn't support either main party candidate. What are your thoughts now? And Angela Davis says, my position has not changed. I am not going to actually support either of the major candidates. Okay, think about what that means for a second. I am not going to support them. But then she says, but I do think that we have to participate in the election. I mean, that isn't to say that I won't vote for the Democrat candidate. What I'm saying is that our election system, as it exists, neither party represents the future that we need in this country. Both parties remain connected to corporate capitalism. But the election will not so much be about who gets to lead the country to a better future, but rather about how we can support ourselves and our own ability to continue to organize and place pressure on those in power. Okay. And she says, I don't think that there's a question about which candidate would allow that process to unfold. So I think that we're going to have to translate some of the passion that has been characterized in these demonstrations to work within the electoral arena, realizing that electoral politics is not the best place for the expression of your radical politics. I think that's absolutely right. It's just about being pragmatic about what are our options. What is this? I mean, electoral politics is largely a sham. It's performative. It's bullshit, right?
Yeah.
And here's the thing: Chomsky's argument and Angela Davis's argument, they really only apply to you if you are in a swing state.
Right.
If you are in a deep red state or a deep blue state, and especially really in a district, always one way or the other. You live in fucking San Francisco, just go right in fucking Mickey Mouse for president, and then make sure you go down the ticket and make sure that you're trying to get the most progressive candidates in office for all the other positions, whether that's local, municipal, state government, whether that's fucking judges, all of that stuff. That stuff is so much more important than electoral politics at the national level. Because remember, national electoral politics has to appeal to so many fucking people. It has to be like okay, as musicians, you guys probably understand. Like, think about like mainstream pop music. It's like it's designed, or mainstream quote art. It's designed to sort of like appeal to the lowest common denominator. Everybody, to appeal to that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So of course it takes the form that it takes because of we have to satisfy so many people with different sort of tastes and attitudes and things like that, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's the thing, is that at the end of the day, electoral politics isn't really the end game, right?
No.
What you want is you want a sort of a place for leftists to breathe, for them to have the ability to sort of keep organizing, to build movements like the Sunrise Movement, Black Lives Matter, the Democratic Socialists of America. That's the kind of stuff we need to do. And we need to double down and put that pressure, keep that pressure with activism on Biden and on Democrats. Because actually it does work in some ways. Here's the thing. Biden is slippery. The DNC is slippery. They will try to wiggle out of this stuff. But if the pressure is on them consistently, they won't be able to wiggle out of it. Okay, so think about this example. Here's an example of this, right? Recently, right before the DNC convention, you had that controversy where the Democrats pulled out of their platform they were going to put to get rid of the subsidies for fossil fuels, right? Mm-hmm. And that suddenly mysteriously disappeared from their platform. Yep. And so then the people in the Sunrise Movement, people in Greenpeace, threw a fucking fit and said, "What the fuck? What happened?" Right? And because they threw a fit, the Democrats had to put it back, and they had to be, "Oh, sorry, we didn't really mean that," or whatever, right? So that's what needs to happen. You got to keep the pressure on these people, because guess what? They are susceptible to pressure. I mean, we've seen that those examples happen. Guess who's not susceptible to pressure? Motherfucking fascist GOP is not susceptible. They don't give a fuck. I mean, these are people out there flirting with QAnon and the demon sperm doctor lady, right, and like insane shit. And Tucker Carlson is on Fox News telling people that Kyle Rittenhouse is a fucking hero, and that this is just what happens when lawless anarchy happens in the country, and how can you blame this kid for shooting fucking people in cold blood and killing them? Yeah, like this is insane, right? I mean, I have a bunch of notes here. I won't even go into them about like how fucking terrible Trump is and all the bad things about. I mean, we don't need to rehash that. Yeah, he is just so obviously worse. The GOP and Trump are so obviously worse, and there's just no way to put any pressure on them, and there's no way to move them. But guess what? You know what? What
about the argument that now that the DNC is obviously, and Biden has just come out and said it, that he doesn't care about progressives, and is now catering to moderate Republicans. And there are these groups the Lincoln Project, the Truman Project, all these high-ranking Republican folks are infiltrating, are co-opting the Democratic Party, which some have led some to say that the current Democratic Party is basically like the Republican Party of the 90s. Are you still okay with the lesser of two evils if literally we're talking about a Republican versus Would you vote for
here's the
Bush over Trump? Does that?
Well, those are interesting questions, right? So I don't think the Democratic Party is there yet, but I am absolutely concerned about what you're talking about because I do think that these fucking Bush era ghouls from the Lincoln Project, these are all assholes who are architects of the Iraq War. They're all people who are Bush administration lackeys. They're all fucking awful.
And Biden was right there, and Biden was right there with him too. You can't ignore.
No, absolutely. But
he was a huge proponent.
Hear me out on this. I think that what we need to do is make sure we keep the pressure up because we have to fight to have influence over the Democratic Party because it is the only vessel right now. It's nothing. Listen, I'm sure Howie Hawkins.
Do you have an example of pressure that we have put on to the DNC that has been successful?
Okay. Well, so
because I don't know of any examples of actual leftist pressure that has worked.
There is. So I already mentioned the Sunrise Movement example. Now, what they here. So this is actually to me and also to Chomsky. As you know from talking to me about this in previous context, climate change is an absolutely existential threat, and it is something that we absolutely have to address. And Trump believes it's a Chinese hoax; he doesn't think it's real. But on the other hand, at least Biden has been actually pressured by the Sunrise Movement and Greenpeace on this, right? So Biden's old plan got a grade of F from Greenpeace. The new one that he just put together with Sanders and the Sunrise Movement, because Sanders had that task force that he joined up with Biden on, that one now has a grade of B. Okay, so that's pretty fucking good going from a grade of F to a grade of B. I will take that. That is absolutely a benefit over the alternative. The alternative being, we don't even believe in this shit. We don't think it's real, right? I mean, so that to me is just obviously it's crucial. But look, there have been a bunch of task forces created with activists and with Sanders, and they are moving the Overton window because of all this activism on single-payer healthcare, tuition-free college, Green New Deal, raising the minimum wage. All that stuff has mainstreamed that stuff, and it's forced the DNC to take that, to be like, we have to sort of respond to this stuff. Now, here's my concern.
They respond to it by saying that they would veto it.
No, that is not quite right.
Biden said he would veto Medicare for all. And he's actually
no, he would.
He's even backtracked on his reintroduction of the ACA. He's actually backtracked on that.
No, let me finish. I agree. He's not going to give us Medicare for all. There's no way he's doing that. He's not going to give us the things that Sanders was trying to push for. He's going to give us watered down.
Approve of.
I know that's true. Yeah. He's gonna give us watered down versions of those. Okay, but the problem is that if we leave the room and we say fuck it and we give over the Democrats to the Lincoln Project ghouls and to the right wing, then we'll have no leverage. We'll have nothing. We'll have absolutely nothing. Right. So I just think that this at this time to hedge off the immediate danger of having a fascist president that did not have a mandate for governance in 2016. He didn't even win the popular vote. If he gets reelected, he is going to be emboldened. His supporters are going to be emboldened, and you just watch how fucking bad everything is going to get. Yeah. It is going to be really bad, and that is the kind of consequence that we need to the harm, great harm to, especially to the most vulnerable people, that we need to stop. I mean, I guarantee you. Now he's already sending unmarked vans to kidnap protesters, right? What do you think he's going to do when he wins next time? He's going to send fucking people, alleged anarchists. They're going to go to fucking Guantanamo, right? His fans. There was a study I saw. His fans all want him to shut down every news organization that isn't Fox News or One American News Network, right? So that he only has fascist state media out there disseminating information. That's fucked up, dude. If we get into completely alternate reality mode, there is no going back from that. That will be the end of fucking this country. for real. So I just think in order to give the left space to breathe and continue to build these movements, we have to vote against this motherfucker. He's got to go. I agree with you that Biden and the Democrats and the centrists are going to erode all of this stuff and water everything down and say, oh no, we're not going to give you Medicare for all. We're going to try to revitalize the corpse of the ACA and whatever.
Yeah.
But it's better than the alternative. That's really the bottom line. And the thing is that you go in, like Chomsky and Davis are saying, just fucking 10 minutes, go in there. Oh, sorry. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
There's my window's open.
They're coming for you. They're coming for you.
They are coming for me. You go in, you do your 10-minute voting, pull the lever, right, whatever. Then you get back to business. You go with DSA and you start doing tenant organization, do a tenants union. We were doing brake light clinics with them and helping people in the community and over in Linden. You give money, donate to BLM, to the bail funds. You volunteer to organize your community, to organize your workplace. Just do like mutual aid, all that stuff, right? That is where that's where politics really lives.
Yeah.
The harm reduction stuff is just like the most basic drop in the bucket, right? What's more important is trying to get socialists on our city council. Like, for example, in Columbus, we are just basically owned and operated by Les Wexner and all his fucking ghouls. So what we need to do is just really, really try hard to get, if we could get the DSA person on city council, that would be amazing. There were some candidates that were going for that, and they did pretty well considering. There's also
Morgan
the
Harper,
Yes We Can movement.
Is she DSA? Morgan Harper.
She is DSA endorsed. Yes.
Okay.
So
I really liked her, yeah.
Yeah, she's great. There's a bunch of good ones. Joe Modal, Liliana Rivera Byman. There's a bunch of good people.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I mean, look into that kind of stuff. Try to knock on doors for them, give money to their campaigns. All of that stuff is super important, and that's part of politics, and it's a crucial part, and it's really important. And so yeah, I think we all get so distracted by national electoral politics, and it really is nothing but a distraction.
It is.
It's fun. It's fun to engage in the fights and the debates, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's a distraction, and it's only a tiny, tiny little portion of what politics really is. And so, I mean, there's just no question of which thing is worse.
Yeah.
Now, I agree that the Democrats and the centrists have been sort of dragging us to the right and everything over time, but that has a lot to do. That has a lot to do with the fact that this is a very right-wing country, and you got to also remember that all of us leftist city dwellers. One sec. Yeah, somebody is on fire. So all of us leftist city dwellers have to put into perspective the fact that we do live in a kind of bubble too, right? Just as much as the rural Trumpers do, we live in a bubble, and we see everybody around us being like, "Oh, Trump sucks," and the Democrats are shitty, and we're like, "Oh, that just seems so obvious." But remember, that can become obvious to us. But the vast majority of people in this country are what Marx called the lumpen proletariat, right? Mm-hmm. They have no interest in revolution. They have no interest in anything but just basically having stability and being able to watch their little sports games on the weekend and go to the Buckeyes game, and just they don't give a shit, and they don't do their homework. They're low information. That is the vast majority of people, and that's what you're contending with. I
would say that right there is, if anything, more of an argument for voting for not voting blue no matter who. And I know this is an accelerationist thinking, and I know that there's serious ethical problems with that, and I contend with that.
Yes.
But the idea that these uninformed folks now more than ever have been radicalized, more than ever, by Trump. You have these even my partner's parents, who have always been Republican, even now refuse to vote for Trump. And I don't know if they're considering voting for Biden. I don't know what their plan is, but I just mean that Trump has made everything so obviously bad that I think it would be a disservice to everyone's involvement in this and awareness of the system right now to to do what Biden wants to do, which is he has said, he wants everything to go back to the way they were before, to go back to where we thought like, oh, we have a black president, so now I don't have to care about politics.
No, listen, I am with you. That's what you might call the blue MAGA types who are like, oh, let's make America great again, like in the way that it was under like Obama, right?
Me as a white liberal, I don't want to have to read Trump's tweets every day. Yeah.
Exactly. We don't have to read Trump's tweets. We don't have to think about the children who we're putting in cages and the people we're deporting. We don't have, although Obama did not have the family separation policy, let's be fair about that. He was deporting people.
I mean, like every president is going to make it worse as long as these policies go along, but we have to recognize where they start.
And he's drone striking children in Yemen. Now, Trump has done more drone strikes, so let's be clear about that. But here's the thing. I mean, they want to go back to where they just don't have to think about it and they can kind of brush it under the rug and whatever. And that sucks and that's bad. Those people are a problem. But at the same time, you have to remember that, like, at the end of the day, we are on the verge of a total fascist takeover. Yeah. And I think we need to prevent that. I think this is, and again, you said the words vote blue no matter who. Let me just be very clear that what Davis and Chomsky are talking about is not that. It is not vote blue no matter who. Because vote blue no matter who is a condescending bullshit statement that means don't demand any concessions, don't put any pressure on the Democrats, just vote for them no matter what, right? And that is not what they're saying, right? They're saying do all the fucking activism that is the only thing that moves the Overton window, right? That's what all these BLM and Sunrise and the Sanders campaign, all of that shit is activism that moved the Overton window so that it was possible for somebody like the Bernie campaign to succeed in the way that it did. And if you stop doing that, then you've given up the whole game and you've just allowed the right wing to just take over the Democratic Party completely. So I think we need to fight. I think we need to fight for it. But again, at the end of the day, I would love for this country to change such that third-party politics, multi-party politics would be viable. Yeah. We could actually feel good for who we're voting for at the national level. But given the structural impediments to that, we need to do something. We need to do the activism that gets us to move that Overton window so that those changes become possible, that they become real political possibilities.
Yeah, normalized. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And I guess
right now we're normalizing fascism, and that's bad. So we have to stop that.
Well, I'd say, and I know like we talked about that we're in like a leftist bubble, but I would still say and maybe you disagree, but I still think that progressives that we're winning the culture war. I really do. I mean, just the fact that Medicare for All is a household name, it has 70%, approval ratings across the country, with even like 30 or 40% in the Republican Party. You know what I mean? I think that's amazing, and that's only since 2016. That's 4 short years for that to be moved that far, and Black Lives Matter has a majority of support across the country. At least it did until Kenosha. I think it dipped down a little bit lower.
So I want both you guys to put a pin in this, and we did a lot of build up to get to this point, and it's getting hot and fiery and sexy, and I love it. But put it, because we're going way over time. Yeah. So put a pin in this, and just next time we have you on, let's have you on before the election again, okay. And let's maybe, like, I don't know how you guys can just maybe have closing statements. I'm being the
the moderator.
Yes.
Yeah, it's good. No, it's good.
Sure.
Michael and I will go on all night, and we have. And,
sure, we can, and we have. Yeah.
I guess I'm just my thing is I'm gonna be doing a special episode on third party voting, and I understand that right now it is not viable, and I also want everybody to know that I have zero confidence at all. There's 0% chance that a third party will win in this upcoming election, and that my main reason for being a proponent of third-party voting is to get that 5%, to just start to move things. And I'm also hoping that, like splitting the vote, I argue that the right is being split with the libertarian vote as well. So I think that the dangers of that happening are minimal to Biden's success. What really is going to be the major impediment is not how many people are voting for third-party voters or for third-party candidates, but is going to be the Electoral College. So you know what I mean? Like I think that I don't know. I think it just needs to start somewhere, and as Rage Against the Machine says, why not here? Why not now? So I guess that's
good.
My whole piece on that.
Yeah, fair. No, look, I am again. I want to just reiterate that I am in favor of third parties. I want them to be. I want there to be valid third parties. I really do. And like I was going to say this before. Like I'm sure that Howie Hawkins is a wonderful guy, but I only heard of him very recently, and I guarantee you that his name recognition is almost zero. Okay.
Sure.
Gary Johnson had like 3-ish%, and he was on TV all the time. He had like way big name recognition comparatively. So here's the thing. I mean, you just at this point getting the 5% it's not going to happen. We're not going to get a valid, viable third party to especially not win, as you said, in the from now between now and the election. But here's what I think. If you want to vote for third parties and you do not live in a swing state, I say absolutely, you should do that. Okay. And again, Chomsky's argument is based on this. He says, look, listen, if you live in a swing state, this applies to you. This argument applies to you. If you don't live in a swing state, then at the national electoral level, you want to write in Mickey Mouse? Go ahead. You want to vote for a third party candidate that you believe in? Go right ahead. In fact, do that. It's better than writing in Mickey Mouse, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Make sure you look at down ballot. Make sure you're participating in that, right? And so I think for folks who live in California, for folks who live in New York, you do not have to vote for Joe Biden. Okay. Yeah. But I think that if you live in a swing state like Ohio or Florida, and you take seriously this idea that fascism is really a serious existential threat to this country, and you do not want to see people thrown in Guantanamo Bay for attending protests, and you want there to be a space for all of us to fucking breathe again and get our organizing back on, then I think you need to vote against Trump. And that means, unfortunately, voting for Biden in a swing state. Outside of a swing state, don't fucking bother. Just vote for a third party. I'm all about that.
Dope. All right. Well, hey, thanks, Michael, for coming on again. We really appreciate hearing from you. We'll definitely get in touch again. We'll do some more. We could both do some more research on some more actual livable models of anarchy. I'd really like to get into that more, because the more I learn about libertarian socialism, the more excited I get. It's really interesting stuff. I mean, there are also some. I mean, we can probably get into some of the issues that are like maybe some of the problems. With trying to make that work in the kind of world that we live in. Sure.
See, that's the problem.
Yeah, that's
the biggest problem.
That was literally the next thing I was going to say. Is not that I think that we'll ever live in that here in America, especially, but I just think that the idea could be freeing. We could start maybe implementing that within activist groups. Maybe have neighborhood watches, because as the police stop serving and protecting, as if they ever did do that, but like as they more openly start opposing these protest groups, that we're gonna have to start policing ourselves and whatnot. And if we could build that on like an anarchist structure or something,
right?
I think that would be a great way to actually really be about it.
Yeah, and we really do need to start thinking that way, because you're absolutely right. I mean, these far-right paramilitaries are only going to get worse, man. And I'm surprised that Kenosha didn't turn into a serious mass shooting.
I know.
Because remember, last year we had that El Paso Walmart mass shooter who basically took Trump's talking points about how Latinos are invading the country, and he basically used that as his justification for that mass shooting. And I think we're about to see that at a protest. Unfortunately, I know that's a shitty sad thing to think about, but that is my great fear right now.
Yep. I 100% agree. I think the thing that's going to stop that from happening is seeing the opposition with equal amounts of firearms, because once then it just becomes...
I mean, I think we do need to make sure that on the left we understand how firearms work and how to use them. But I do fear that too, because I don't want to be in that kind of confrontation. I really don't.
No,
I really don't.
Nobody
I'm not a violent person.
Yeah.
I want peace. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes in order to have peace, you do need to be able to defend yourself. So
I did read that gun sales to blacks went up higher than ever historically just this last week. So that's interesting.
That's awesome. Good. Arm the minorities.
Hey, man, it's really nice talking to you, hearing everything. I learned a lot, and thank you so much. Another great guest that we could talk to for days on end, but we'll have you back.
Yep, absolutely. Sorry for going over.
Oh, no,
no.
Yeah, it was a great conversation.
No, we loved it. Yeah,
it was great.
All right, man.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. We'll see you. We'll see you out in the real world soon enough. Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
All right, man. Love.
Bye.
Wear a mask.
Take care, guys.
Stay sane.
Yeah. Oh, wear masks. Stay safe.
All right. See you guys.
Later, guys.